morning to all of you. It's really a great honor to be in the presence of stalwarts like Professor Satish Chandra, Shri T.N. Chaturvedi, Professor Ghoshal, some very familiar, friendly faces, and very distinguished colleagues, excellencies. I think that this relationship between the Indian Ocean and Central Asia, particularly the landlocked states of countries of Central Asia, is a fascinating field. My congratulations to you for having gathered here to look at this very fertile and extremely fascinating relationship. The discovery of Central Asia, or rediscovery of Central Asia in its present form, in this present landscape, after the breaking up of the Soviet Union over the last 20 years, has for me really been in a sense a companion of my career, spanning a period of about 20 years. I see this, my former colleague, former Foreign Secretary, Mr. Salman Haider, who's here, who was the Foreign Secretary at that time. Central Asia was just stirring and emerging as newly discovered independent countries for themselves. I had the good fortune to travel there for 14 days and go to each of those countries, fascinated by everything they offered. And perhaps my play, Sons of Babur, was in a sense first conceived during that visit to the land of the birth of Babur and the rest. But there is one interesting anecdote that I picked up, and I often use it whenever I have to meet a gathering as distinguished as this one, obviously far more familiar and hands-on, involved in research in this field. I mean, I can only touch the top a little bit, while you have delved deep into this enormously rich heritage. And that anecdote I want to share with you because it's very interesting and it comes handy very often. It's about Mullah Nasruddin, who was to address a distinguished audience like this, and wasn't very well prepared. So he looked around at everyone very soulfully and said, "So, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, you know what I'm going to say?" And everybody said, "No, we are anxiously waiting. We have no idea what you're going to say." And he said, "I will not speak to an audience that doesn't even know what I'm going to say." And walked away. So, not to be defeated by that, organizers said, "Let's bring him back in again and try once more." So he was brought in the following week, and he looked at people and said, "So now you know what I'm going to say?" And everybody said, "Of course we know what you're going to say." And he said, "Well, in that case, there is no need for me to say it at all." And off he went. So everybody put their heads together and said, "Now how are we going to deal with this guy? It's very slippery." And someone suggested, "I'll tell you what we'll do is half of us will say we know and the other half will say we don't, so he will be forced to speak." So he came back and he said, "So now do you know what I'm going to say?" And half said, "Yes, we do." The other half said, "We don't." So he paused and said, "Good, in that case, those who know will please tell those who don't. My job is done." I would have ideally suggested that as an outcome here, because all of you are really so deeply involved in this topic, Indian Ocean, Central Asian landlocked states. But I think that I will not be treated as graciously as he was and trying to get away. Therefore, I will try to say something that hopefully will provide you with some food for thought as you move forward in your discussions over the day and a half that you've given to yourself. There are things that you know well, and there are things about our history, the sea routes, and indeed the land routes, the accommodation and that alternatives found by Central Asian traders to not having sea routes was, that remarkable Silk Route saga. But we know now, today, that that is still alive, and the Silk Routes continue, but the the paradigms have changed, and the structure of trade and the instruments of trading are changing. We know, of course, also that Indian Ocean is emerging as a very critical area, accounting for half the world's container transportation traffic. The containers change the way we do trade in the world. We also know that 70% of the world's petroleum products cross the Indian Ocean from the source, which is largely Middle East, and moving on to Pacific all the way to Japan. So the passage of ships and tankers through the world's chief oil shipping lanes, as they are called, like the Gulfs of Aden and Oman and the Straits of Hormuz and Malacca. The Indian Ocean, therefore, is vital for geopolitical reasons, strategic reasons, something that was emphasized to me over and over again last week when I was in the Philippines with their ongoing issues with China, and again by Singapore, with whom we now have a growing strategic relationship. But the fact that when we speak of the landlocked states, each one being miles away from seas, there is an interesting lineup of figures that I've been given. Closest distance from the sea for Kazakhstan, and you can challenge me if you want, is 3,750 kilometers. Kyrgyzstan is 3,600 kilometers. Tajikistan is 3,100 kilometers. Uzbekistan is 2,950 kilometers. Turkmenistan is 1,700 kilometers. And even Afghanistan is 1,960 kilometers from the sea. So obviously for landlocked states, the exit to the sea is either in is really to the Arabian Sea, from where the links to the Indian Ocean, and from there onwards to South Asia. And now, of course, the emerging picture of Indo-Pacific being a critical link between our part of the globe and a very important partnership area for us. I want to actually just emphasize the building blocks of Indian foreign policy engagement and the emphasis that we are now giving, which means a lot of travel for the foreign minister and his colleagues, is the Connect Central Asia policy that we treat as being of high priority. Look East policy that, again, now into 20 years, that we have reached at quite a level of maturity, and we see tremendous potential. Our continuing partnership with Africa, which is from the times of our independence, and a very important commitment, and we remain engaged with that commitment and hope to increase it as we go along. Our engagement of Europe, and of course strategic partnership with the United States of America. But in more recent times, and I made 2 visits, and I hope I'll make 1 more visit to Latin America, far away as it is. We have given ourselves a fresh impetus to look at Latin America, where we have enormous amount of goodwill for India, but the distances keep us in a sense separated. We can't seem to get a direct flight from India to Central Asia. But I went to Central Asia, and I was given to understand, first time in 60 years, that the Indian foreign minister was visiting Chile in a bilateral visit. Argentina, we were visiting after 14 years. Brazil, of course, we are in touch with through IPSA and BRICS, but again, bilateral visit, even in Brazil, came after a long time. I was there last week. So that's the globe as we see. Our salient features of our past foreign policy remain intact. Russia, United States of America, Europe, and Southeast Asia. But there is stirring an aspiration and indeed, if I might say, an important need as far as strategic issues are concerned, peace in Asia, and energy security. A very important part of our energy security comes from Central Asia. So this is really an interdependence. It's not just doing favors to Central Asia to come and access warm waters, but an important building block of energy security for India. And therefore, this fresh look at India and the Indian Ocean's links with Central Asia, I think, has come very timely. And your reflection and your interaction and the conclusions that you draw here in this seminar will be of paramount importance to us. I have a larger 70 mm picture of what you're trying to do. The IORAC, which I will now be attending 3 days from now in Perth, we will be handing over to Australia, the chair to Australia, who in turn 2 years later will hand over to Indonesia. But this beautiful arc between the west coast of Africa, the bottom of the west coast, going up to GCC, and then moving into India, into SAARC, and then from SAARC into Southeast Asia, ASEAN, and then finally into Australia. This beautiful arc, which is now more of nature of growing cooperation, is an interesting construct. Most regional cooperation groups in the world, I think, if not all, are based on landmass. This is the only one, potentially, which is based on sea. Not based on land, but based on sea. It's the arc around the Indian Ocean which provides this. And obviously, those who are intrinsically linked or need to be linked with the Indian Ocean, but are not actually have a role here as well. Whether this organization will transform itself into having a lot of observer members, people who are not immediately on the Indian Ocean, some not necessarily cut off by land, but being not up front in the arc, for instance, Philippines, just beyond Malaysia and beyond Indonesia, but they're not members of this arc. I see one day as this arc concentrating on the island nations, again, extremely important island nations in the Indian Ocean, and perhaps converging all their energies into a world-class university. Of course, we are working on world-class universities like Nalanda, South Asian University, but this would be, I think, even more significant in the manner in which Africa, Australia, GCC, and India would converge. Now, the important thing for us geographically, and this is not an assertion, political assertion, but geographically, and I think that sometimes you have an advantage of geography, sometimes you have a disadvantage of geography, is that in this entire arc, the pivot is India. Pivot is a bad word these days, as I understand, but the pivot is India. We are right in the middle. One side, depending on how you look at it, on the left is the African arc, and on the right is the South Asian and Southeast Asian and the Australian arc. But this is, I believe, enormous potential. And I say this from another point of view. I do believe that Australia has a lot of interest in Central Asia. And Australia, like we are far away from Latin America, Australia is far away from Central Asia. So India can be an ideal stepping stone for Australia, New Zealand, and that part of the world to use India to access Central Asia, and we would be, of course, very, very happy to cooperate and collaborate, just as now to get to Latin America, Brazil, the GCC countries, Dubai, or for that matter, South Africa are becoming very important stepping stones for us. So this is how we see this great picture and our engagement with Central Asia in this picture. But on our own, what we've been doing with Central Asia, I think if I might just highlight those quickly, a shorter, cheaper, quicker route to Central Asia. And this will be the International North-South Transport Corridor that runs through Iran and was agreed upon by Iran, India, Iran, and Russia in 2002. The INSTC, as it's called, has expanded to include several members, amongst them Kazakhstan, Kyrgyz Republic, Tajikistan, Ukraine, and Belarus. The INSTC envisages movements of goods to and from Mumbai to Bandar Abbas port in Iran by sea, from Bandar Abbas to Bandar-e Anzali, an Iranian port on the Caspian Sea, by rail and road, from Bandar-e Anzali to Astrakhan, a Russian port, across the Caspian Sea by ship, and from Astrakhan to other regions in Russia by rail. According to studies, this could reduce time and cost of container delivery by 30 to 40%. Clearly, this route will not just give Central Asia, but also Russia and South Caucasus a viable access to sea through the territory of Iran. So you are blessed in many ways. We also have other North-South dialogue, North-South routes coming up from Central Asia and seeking access to sea, like the Iran-Turkmenistan-Kazakhstan rail link, which will provide the alternative rail connectivity from Western Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan to Bandar Abbas again through Gorgon in Iran. This transnational project will provide an impetus for regional cooperation, economic integration of countries in the Eurasian region with the Indian Ocean and Persian Gulf. Then we have a medium-term objective, which is looking for connectivity through Chabahar port in Iran. And this would be beneficial particularly to Uzbekistan. And the trilateral transit agreement with Iran and Afghanistan is in the pipeline for permitting transit rights of Indian goods through Iran to Afghanistan. And this would be a critical engagement with western part of Afghanistan post 2014 as we continue our process of growth partnership and building partnership with Iran, giving Iran access giving Afghanistan access to important things that they need to import, and also giving them an evacuation route for valuable minerals that we can excavate from the Bamiyan area, but hopefully also evacuation of value-added products that can be done on Afghan territory itself. Then in the long term, the challenge, of course, is the creation of stable and competitive goods and energy supply networks for not just trade, but also for supply of oil from the Caspian Sea, gas from Turkmenistan, and hydroelectricity from Tajikistan to India. This is the ideal world of tomorrow. We have some friends in our neighborhood who need to see the potential of this, because whatever India gets in very attractive terms, they could also participate in. The viability of such a north-south energy supply network will have to take into account factors of terrain, security, and of course geopolitics. The fact that governments of the region have agreed to the construction of the TAPI, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India gas pipeline project is a positive indication of the opportunities ahead, given the growing political will to enter into cooperation with Central Asia, between Central Asia and South Asia. We are also considering alternative dream projects like oil pipelines from Kazakhstan and Russia to India. So, as I said, it is important for security, energy security, and we hope to see this as come to fruition in the years. But obviously, opinion building and encouragement to governments will have to come from people like you. On Afghanistan, again, the connectivity issue, we have completed two major projects. The 218-kilometer road project from Zaranj to Delaram in southern western Afghanistan to facilitate movements of goods and services to the Iranian border and onwards to the Chabahar port. And then the 202-kilometer electricity transmission line between Uzbek electricity to Kabul. And this is, of course, creating scope for new networks independent of the traditional land routes. So if you like the electronic Silk Route, if you want to describe it like that, with the entry of Afghanistan into SAARC in 2007, Central Asia is now contiguous to South Asia. We lost the contiguity bilaterally because of some political intervention, but I think we now restore it through this route. This opens up possibilities of Afghanistan becoming a trade, transportation and energy hub linking together countries of the region from Central to South Asia. The situation in Afghanistan post-2014 is of concern, I know, and it would be prudent that we dwell upon common regional solutions through dialogue on the issue of terrorism and present an integrated development economic paradigm as an alternative. While hydrocarbons, carbon resources form an important component, as I said, of our partnership with Central Asian countries, we believe in transcending from resource state-client relationships to partnership for cooperative development. And this is signified by our partnerships in bilateral investment, science, technology, high-tech sectors such as space, application, nuclear energy, IT-related projects, and our constant endeavor to work towards a viable land connectivity between us. The regional cooperation and connectivity that we see and perceive and conceive would help in largely in integrating also Afghanistan into the regional trade and transit network. And therefore, I think all stakeholders around Afghanistan, particularly all of us in part of the Istanbul process, hopefully will work towards that becoming a reality in our lifetime. We see with great satisfaction the evolving economic interdependency and the integration of the Eurasian space. We've already proposed a comprehensive economic cooperation agreement, CECA, to integrate Indian markets with the unifying Eurasian space, and we have support from Russia in this. Central Asia today is witnessing an unprecedented transition in economic development and integration into the global economic and political mainstream. We are, as Professor Satish Chandra just told us, both India and Central Asia are multicultural, pluralistic societies. We share civilizational bonds. Our civilizational bonds have been translated into warm, friendly relations in our times, with India being amongst the first countries to open diplomatic missions in all the 5 capitals. It is our firm belief that enhanced interaction and collaboration between India and Central Asia will contribute to stability and development in the entire Central and South Asian region. I extend my warm congratulations to all of you, to SIOS for organizing this international seminar. We hope that Central Asia to South Asia will become one prosperous economic corridor whose benefits would spread from Central Asia down to the Indian Ocean. This would be, I hope, a guarantee of greater stability, prosperity in the region, and we will be obviously grateful to academic inputs that make such a reality possible. Thank you very much.